ADHD journey, finding the solutions that work. Hi, I'm Leslie, your host, and in this comprehensive guide, we're going to explore some different areas where parents can encounter challenges in helping their ADHD child. I've been thinking about my own ADHD child and this summer, and we're going through periods where we're trying not to medicate him, and I wanted to explore a deeper level on some other avenues that maybe I haven't really considered. Throughout this video, I will provide practical examples and strategies that I plan to implement as I go through this discovery process for my own child. Medicating a child with ADHD is a decision that should be carefully considered in consultation with medical professionals. We actually went to our child's doctor today and got his prescription renewed, even though I'm considering backing away from it, at least right now, while we're in summer. It's important to note that the pros and cons may vary depending on the individual child and their specific circumstances. So here's just a general rule of thumb of pros and cons that you may want to consider. Pros of medicating your child would be being able to manage their symptoms such as impulsivity, hyperactivity, and inattention, allowing the child to focus and concentrate. That's where I have found that my child thrives the best, is through that symptom management. You can also have improved academic performance because of those controlled behaviors. It can also increase their self-esteem because they're able to manage their symptoms and improve their social interactions and their school achievement and their overall competence. It leads to increasing that self-esteem, which means that they have an enhanced quality of life. The cons of medicating ADHD are side effects. I know personally with my child, his side effects are that he does not eat a lot. So that means on weekends, we try not to give him his medication, although I know it's different for different people based on the medication, if they can or cannot. But there can also be stomach aches, headaches, sleep disturbances, irritability. Although not all children experience side effects, they can be a concern, and you have to sort of weigh that as, is it worth me medicating? Are these benefits better than what these side effects will be? Each child's response to medication can vary, and finding the right medication and dosage may involve a trial and error process. Some children may not respond well to certain medications or may experience limited effectiveness. So my child's individual response was really terrible when we were doing pills. He was not able to swallow the pill, so we ended up doing a liquid, and currently he's taking Quillavent. And we're having really good success with it right now. Medication is not a cure for ADHD, but rather a tool to manage the symptoms, which is why I'm going more into the behavior aspect and what parents can do to actually control their behavior and practice it, maybe even in order to wean their child off medication. I know when children are younger, it's harder for them to take that control of their behavior, and it was really something that they have to practice at, and that becomes a little bit easier the older they get, the more mature they get, and the more that they can understand how their behavior is affecting their everyday life. Medicating a child with ADHD may carry still some social stigma and concerns about labeling or an over-reliance on medication other than addressing the underlying causes or implementing behavioral changes. While stimulant medications like methylphenidate and amphetamines have been used for decades and generally are considered safe, there is ongoing research and debate regarding the long-term effects of these medications on growth, cardiovascular health, and potential risk in adolescent and adulthood. And I'm one of those people that really want to delve into a more natural state of being and not have to heavily rely on medications to control anything that's happening with your body and the brain. It's crucial to involve your own healthcare professionals to assess the child's specific situation, consider the pros and cons, and develop a comprehensive treatment plan that may include a combination of medication, therapy, and behavioral interventions tailored to the child's needs. One of the great things to do for a child with ADHD is create structure. I know my child particularly thrives on structure, and he always wants to know what's next, what's coming next. He doesn't like to figure out and have surprises about what's happening with whatever's happening in his life in that next moment. He always wants to be prepared. And when you have a routine set in place, whether that is your morning routine practice, your bedtime routine practice, how you get ready for school in the morning, what happens when you're getting from school, how you transition from one activity to another, can be very helpful for a child, especially those routines, because you're changing from doing one thing to another thing. And if you have a routine and a clear expectation of what is going to happen in that next moment, it is easier to do. And creating a schedule can be very, very helpful so that they have that routine and they know what those expectations are. It can be so overwhelming for a child to have schoolwork that's just a piece of paper with a bunch of words on it. It can be overwhelming for a child to get a stack of worksheets. It's intimidating for me as an adult to get a stack and have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to do all this work. That's crazy. So it's really important to help children, all children, but even particularly ADHD kids, how to break down a task into smaller steps. So even when my child has a room that is a absolute disaster, and I will show you some pictures of how we handled this situation, then I will show him and teach him, okay, what do we need to do first to accomplish cleaning your room? And he automatically knows I'm going to pick up all my felt, because he likes to make plushies with felt. And then he's going to pick up all of his plushies. And then he's going to put up his clothes. Then he's going to throw away the trash. So there's certain things, and you can even break that down with the actual work that you do. I'm going to do just this top section, this middle section, this bottom section on this paper. Make sure that he understands how to break down those steps, guide them through practicing. I'm only concentrating on this particular part, and when I finish that, then I can go to the next part. Teach it, guide it, practice it. The more you practice it, the better you'll get, and the easier it will be for him to be able to break down his own task later on. Using visual aids for ADHD kids is really kind of crucial. My child in particular really loves to have a calendar, and we have this little Snoopy calendar that we put up on the wall, and on the 6th day, he knows that's when he gets his Roblox money come in. And every day he's looking and he's checking that calendar, and it keeps him aware of, okay, when is this going to happen? When is the next day going to occur? And he's in this stage right now where he's like, we're going to do it the next day. And he doesn't even know how to say that day is tomorrow yet. We're still in the practice of that. But using a calendar, using a checklist, he even decided that he was going to write down the list of things that he wanted to do in a day. And it was, play games, go hide and seek, go get some McDonald's. So visual aids he has found work really well for him. And you can create your own visual aids, but it's even better when your child is old enough to create their own calendar, their own checklist. But it's a very vital skill that is necessary for people with ADHD. Giving clear instructions is extremely important. I know, even for myself, if someone is not directly saying, Leslie, hey, I need to tell you this, and they don't have my attention, I'm focused on something else, I literally will not hear them. Does anybody else have that problem? I have that problem. Okay, my child has that problem as well. And so to have clear expectations, it's very important. Get down at their level and say, this is what I expect from you. And then you can't just leave it that way and then walk away. No, you have to be very simple, very specific, easy to understand, and then follow up with a question. What is it that I just asked you to do? Have them repeat it, and then they can go and do it. Now, whether they respond with stomping their feet and saying, I don't want to do this, if they're walking in that direction, you leave it alone, because they're doing what you've asked them to do. It's okay for people to be upset. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of something and I have to get up and do something else that I don't want to do, I get upset about that. Now, I'm not going to stomp my feet and say words, but I'm not a kid either. And a kid has to have that skill to practice and learn. And he's going to be more willing to have those emotions and express those emotions. And we as adults have to accept that to a degree. Now, I mean, obviously, you don't want to be cursed out or something like that. But if they're doing what they're asked, then you leave alone the other things, because the very next step after I've asked him to do that, he comes back and hugs me and says, "I love you, mommy." Okay? ADHD kids need a little bit more patience than most other kids. And you have to figure out for yourself, what am I doing? How can I be more patient with my child? How can I be more understanding with my child? And using positive reinforcement, rewards, and praising behaviors that you see and notice is going to help your child get there more, right? When you've asked them to go get dressed and they do have this little, "I don't want to do that" attitude, but then they get dressed, you can say, "I appreciate you doing what I've asked you to do." And then also to the effect of natural consequences. If they have messed up on something, just let that natural consequence exist. If they didn't get something that they wanted, well, that's whatever it is, it's a natural consequence. You don't have to add more consequences if they're already getting something that's bad as a result out of it. ADHD children need a quiet, well organized, and no cluttered space to work. So make sure that before your child gets started on any kind of schoolwork or anything the task that you need them to do, to read a book, to do their math work, whatever it is, make sure that that space is quiet and well organized with no clutter, because they will literally be distracted by everything. Do not have them do their homework in front of the TV going and three or four other kids in the same room walking around. That's just, it's not going to work. It's not going to benefit them. Find a particular location in your home that will be that quiet, safe space. I know for my child, if I let him sit at his desk, it's going to be cluttered. He has all his toys in his room. That's a complete distraction. But if I set him at the kitchen table where there's not a lot of toys, not a lot of things that he could just grab and distract himself with, he's going to perform a lot better otherwise. When my child wakes up, okay, not all the time, sometimes he's sleepy, but he literally can just bounce out the bed and hop his little self all around the house all morning long. Kids with ADHD need so much more physical activity. Regular exercise and physical activity helps reduce their hyperactivity, improves their focus, and releases excess energy. It's really important to find whatever physical activity your child really enjoys. And I plan on implementing physical activity in the morning before school starts so that he has gotten a little bit more of that energy out. And last school year has been really amazing because they have 2 recesses at school and they have PE. So his previous school did not have that, and he is thriving so much more because his body is going to be physically active. And schools really need to implement more up and running around and doing things physically with our bodies, because that is what they were meant for and built for, not sitting at a desk. ADHD kids have a huge issue with self regulation, and the solution to self regulation is to teach them deep breathing techniques. Try meditation, try mindfulness. Mindfulness is focusing on your senses. What do they see? What do they hear? How do they feel? What do they taste? The texture that they're touching, right? So either taking those deep breaths and counting to 10, it's a skill that needs to be practiced every day. If you're only teaching self-regulation in a moment of crisis, it's not going to stay in the mind and the memory. It's something that needs to be practiced on the daily basis so that they know when this occurs, this is the tool that I'm going to use and practice, and I know how to do it because I've been practicing it every day. That goes with deep breathing, with mindfulness, and even trying with fidget toys can also be extremely helpful. Even just a simple hug and tightness. My children really love to be held and be held tightly. Let's face it, ADHD kids, they're a hot mess. They are just a hot mess. This is left there, that's over there. They have piles of stuff and they may actually know where everything is. But for a person who is extremely organized and likes things to be where they're supposed to be and it to not look cluttered, it can drive me insane, literally insane. And so that's where my patience has to come in as a parent and to be understanding with my child, but then also, on the other hand, offer them that organizational support. Teach them how to organize. Okay, here's our list of things that we have in this room. How can we organize them and put them together? So I just recently was working with my child on cleaning his room. And I said, he has a gazillion stuffed animals and plushies, like a gazillion. And so I said, let's organize these and put these in a particular place. Where are all your rainbow friends going to go? And then he could take all of his rainbow friends and put them in one spot. Where are all of your Doors characters going to go? They're going to go in another spot. Where is all your Bam Bam characters, Garden of Bam Bam characters going to go? And he would take them and put them all in one spot. So teach it, guide it, and have them practice those organizational skills, and it can help them be so much more productive and manage that clutter that exists in their life. Timers are my saving grace. I love a timer. And I have been teaching my child about timers, and he uses them like crazy. And we will say, okay, it's time for bed, it's time to brush your teeth, whatever it is. And he's like, I need 5 more minutes. I need, 10 more minutes. So he understands the concept of time and knowing that there is going to be a strict time limit on certain things. Managing his times helps them to stay on track and to be able to transition from one activity to another. And he really, really thrives on that and needs it. So we have different Alexas or Echoes or whatever you want to call them. We call them different things in our house. And he'll call on that and he'll be like, set a 5-minute timer, set a 10-minute timer. And when that goes off, he immediately knows, okay, that's my cue to know that I've got to go brush my teeth or I've got to go get in the bath or whatever it is that I've expected him to do. So when a child is in a sedentary task, such as homework or reading, or if they're doing something that is difficult for them to do and they have to concentrate and focus, something that maybe not is that enjoyable to them, that's something that needs to be broken apart. Just like we talked about when we broke down a task, sometimes those overall tasks need to be broken down as well, and you need to have breaks. So having time to break it apart where you're only spending 10 minutes of that concentrated focus time, because sometimes that's all that their little brains can manage in that moment before they're like, oh, squirrel, where is it? Okay, have them choose something else to do as their breaks. Time to relax. Maybe that's when you're going to practice your breathing technique or your mindfulness technique. Maybe that's when you're going to move and create a sense of physical activity because they're going to be distracted because they haven't gotten out all their energy. It might be as simple as having a fidget toy or some Play-Doh to move it with their hands and relax a little bit before they have to go back into that deep focus again. And breaking those down into smaller tasks can be extremely helpful, not for ADHD kids, but for all people, including myself. Eating healthy can benefit anybody, but an ADHD kid especially needs it because there's so many things that are added to our diets and how sugar affects our body. And ADHD people can be more prone to having symptoms that flare up due to the foods that they're eating. So a really good idea is to have a high protein breakfast, have supplements like fish oil that you can provide to your child, and eat non-processed foods. That's going to cover a lot of your majority of food issues, but I realize personally we have a lot of struggles with eating healthy because our child has very specific foods that he will and will not eat, and that can really be a struggle. So We always are trying to focus on, okay, you'll eat carrots, so let's provide you with carrots as a snack. You'll eat lettuce, so we'll provide lettuce with some ranch. I try to figure out what it is he will eat and give him more opportunities to do that as well. But it's definitely one of those key areas that we struggle with and we're working towards and figuring that out for ourselves as well. Establishing a consistent sleep routine can be challenging, especially on weekends, but creating a structured bedtime routine that includes calming activities such as reading a book, taking a warm bath, or practicing those relaxation techniques that we talked about. Having a consistent sleep and wake time can help regulate your child's sleep patterns. And the more often that you practice at a specific time, the better it will be. So even on weekends, it's really important to kind of stick to that same routine. Uh, Screen time. Screen time is so difficult. My child loves to be on an iPad, but it kind of went dead the other day. So I'm kind of excited about it because this is really going to help me be able to keep a more consistent limit of his screen time. It's really important to balance screen time with your physical activity, with socialization and interaction, and with cognitive stimulation, such as reading or studying something or learning something new. Limit your screen time as much as possible. And I would even suggest to just break it down into even just 15-minute increments so that your child is not getting more than 2 hours of screen time. And if they are under two, they should not ever, ever have a screen. I made this mistake. My kid is now ADHD, and both of them have some like issues related to this screen time and addiction, and it's so important to figure out how to stop that at an early age and to have it be a really good focus as you as a parent in controlling those things that are not great for our children before they can regulate it for themselves. So, where can you find additional support? You could consider therapy and counseling. I have both of my children in therapy and counseling. Maybe that's because I'm a counselor too. But behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy can help a child develop coping skills, improve their self esteem, manage their emotions, and address any underlying emotional or social challenges that can be related to ADHD. Remember, the effectiveness of these strategies may vary for each child with ADHD, and it's important to work closely with a professional, such as an educator or a therapist or healthcare provider, to tailor interventions to the specific needs of your child and provide ongoing support. And as a parent dealing with a child with ADHD, remember also to take care of yourself. I have a free 7-day guide to Master Your Moment that provides strategies that can improve your own daily function. This can be a great way to lead your child by example, and see the link in my description or message me on Facebook or Instagram for that free link. If you like this video, please subscribe and share with anyone that you might think might benefit.